Did most supporters want Rafa Benitez to stay at the end of last season? Yes. Did most supporters want Steve Bruce to take over as manager? No. Is it okay to give Steve Bruce stick when we do poorly? Yes. Is it okay to give Steve Bruce praise when we do well? Yes. Is Steve Bruce a better manager than Rafa Benitez? Of course not. So why are Newcastle fans obsessed with the constant comparisons? It's been a really interesting season following Newcastle United. For large parts of the season, it has been utterly underwhelming, boring, and to be honest, makes you question why we bother to turn up week in and week out. And yet, we've managed to reach an FA Cup quarter-final, something we hadn't managed for 14 years, and with half a dozen games still to play, we are sitting comfortably in mid-table with absolutely no danger of relegation. Surely, that is plenty of reasons to be cheerful. Well, it appears that there is still a raging debate about our current manager, Steve Bruce. So is Bruce getting a raw deal from supporters? Before we answer that question, please consider hitting the like button on this video, that'll help me massively, and if you like the content on this channel, please consider subscribing too. Now, after hammering Bournemouth 4-1 midweek to reach 42 points, there were some themes that emerged on social media about Steve Bruce. There appears to be a not insignificant minority who just cannot allow themselves to give Steve Bruce any credit at all. Look, of course, everyone's entitled to their opinions, but I do feel like there's some comparing apples and oranges going on, as well as some just outright hypocrisy, really, about how Steve Bruce is talked about compared to how Rafa Benitez is talked about. For example, there are people out there saying that the win against Bournemouth was essentially nothing, that Bournemouth was so poor the win was nothing special. One person even messaged me saying because we lost the FA Cup tie against Man City at the weekend, our season was therefore over and the remaining matches are essentially just pre-season games. Well, sorry, but that is just simply not true. Yes, Bournemouth were woeful, absolutely terrible, but that is not Newcastle's business. As it stands, Bournemouth are a Premier League football club. There were 3 points available for the win and we got them. Convincingly. Now, whether you like it or not, Steve Bruce set up his team well and we dominated the match. We didn't just beat Bournemouth, we absolutely hammered them, and the players and Steve Bruce do deserve credit for that. After all, for most of this season, we have all been crying out for more attacking play and more goals. I very much count myself in that group who were giving Bruce a lot of stick earlier in the season because of how desperate the product on the pitch being served up was at times. Yet since the restart, we've scored 8 goals in the first 3 league matches and taken 7 points. How can anyone not be anything other than delighted with that? And in 2 of those matches, we've played really, really well. Then we see the argument that Steve Bruce was lucky to have inherited Rafa's foundations of a squad. Maybe he was, but the fact remains that inheriting a decent squad is absolutely no guarantee whatsoever that they'll be able to build on it or even maintain it. And let's not forget, most people thought we were going to finish rock bottom with the squad we had. There's a bit of revisionism going on in my view. I'll give you 2 examples at Newcastle alone where a manager has followed a good squad and not been able to maintain it. When Keegan left in 1997, we brought in Kenny Dalglish, and within a year, we turned from the entertainers into one of the most pedestrian and dire teams to watch in the entire league, and we'd slipped to mid-table. Then, another example, after Bobby Robson was sacked, we brought in disciplinarian Graham Souness. A squad that had finished 5th, again was dragged down to mid-table soon after. So please, let's just give Steve Bruce a little bit of credit where it's due. Bruce has kept the team spirit alive, something that nobody expected when he came in just 3 weeks before the season opener. Never forget just how bad a situation Bruce walked into. The whole club was a mess, and last summer was an utter disgrace thanks to Ashley's handling of the Rafa contract situation. And as I say, every single Newcastle supporter that I knew thought we were certain for relegation because we didn't think we had the squad and we didn't think there was enough planning had gone into the season. On a related note, I also see people say, well, Steve Bruce spent £80 million or whatever, a luxury Rafa was never afforded. But he didn't, did he? Not really, because he had no say whatsoever in Joe Linton coming in, or Sam Maximan for that matter, and to me it's just a non-argument that Steve Bruce had money to spend, because we all know how transfers work at Newcastle. Steve Bruce had nothing to do with them. However, one thing I do take issue with is the growing number of pundits saying Bruce is doing a better job than Rafa. But this is a case of comparing apples and oranges in my view. Yes, Steve Bruce has exceeded expectations this season, and I am so grateful for that. Definitely some major luck involved in some of our results, but I'd sooner have a lucky manager than an unlucky one. I'd sooner see Newcastle survive than in a relegation fight. And it is likely that Steve Bruce is going to surpass Rafa's total points from last season, but does that make him better? Of course it doesn't. Their managerial records speak for themselves, and let's not forget, Rafa was building something special. It wasn't just about one season with Rafa, it was about the 3 years he was with the club. He was the one who sorted the club out after a second relegation under Ashley. He was the one who, on a shoestring budget, guided the team to safety in the Premier League and who simply needed backing by Ashley to kick on to take us to the next level. And I get that there's a lot of frustration out there from fans that wasn't allowed to happen, and I am one of those people who feel like that. As I said, annoyingly, as we all know, that didn't happen, and Ashley screwed Rafa over just as he has done other legends of the club in the past. I am firmly in the camp that wanted Rafa to stay and continue what he'd started, but as a set of fans, we really need to get over the fact that Rafa has gone now. It's not helpful to keep pining after him. He's gone, and it's unlikely he'll come back. Whether we like it or not, Steve Bruce is the manager of Newcastle United, and as such, he deserves our support. And in my view, he deserves criticism when things aren't right, which he has received by the bucket load, by the way, but he also deserves some credit when we do play better football and get good results, things that we've been asking for all season. And we also need to realise that giving Steve Bruce a little bit of credit for a short run of good form does not mean that we think he's better than Rafa, or that we prefer him to Rafa, because quite frankly, that's ridiculous. And you know what else? Nothing bad will happen if you say, "Well done, Steve," after winning 4-1 away from home to ensure our Premier League status for another season. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the like button too, and I will see you really soon for another video.